Thank you, John. From boxing to mixed martial arts, one of the sport's legends is a real $20 million man. Randy Couture parlayed a successful wrestling and fighting career into acting on the silver screen. We sat down with the man who was on the ground floor as the UFC's foundation began to take shape. He's back in Vegas reading movie scripts and preparing for the Professional Fighters League. With the playoffs being held in Las Vegas on 3 separate occasions at Mandalay Bay in October, championships in New York on New Year's Eve.
That's where things get a little more interesting because they're going to fight their quarterfinal and semifinal matches on the same night. Quarterfinals is a 2-round, and they've got a criteria in place for a potential tie. One guy wins one round, one guy wins the other round. Now, how do we break the tie? So they have criteria in place for that. And then the second semifinal match is a 3-round fight, so a lot less likelihood there's going to be a draw or a tie. And you have to win those fights to get a shot at the title, to get a shot at that big purse, that $1 million. Each of the 3 nights will have 2 of the 6 weight classes that we compete in the Professional Fighters League. So, and I think the story this year that everybody's intrigued is the 155-pound female class with Kayla Harrison. There's some great gals in there. It's going to be really interesting to see how that 2-time gold medalist fares in her kind of debut in mixed martial arts in a full season. It's a big purse, and that has definitely gotten a lot of people's attention. Obviously they're coming here. I get to sleep in my own bed for these 3 shows and in the playoffs, and they have, a motto at the Professional Fighters League is, what do you fight for? And so in every city that we've gone to, they've kind of ferreted out a foundation that they wanted to get behind and support. And they do a 50-50 raffle. You can get tickets at the event where half the proceeds from the winner of that raffle will go to the guy who got the winning ticket, but the other half will go to that particular foundation. And I guess because I'm part of the team, they realized that I was a vet, and I've been running a foundation for wounded veterans for a dozen years now, 12 years. They want to make my foundation the beneficiary of these 3 postseason championship fights coming up. So I'm really excited about that. That adds a whole nother layer to this whole thing for me.
Can you kind of help lay the foundation for the entire sport?
Well, I just feel fortunate to have been involved and be one of the guys that was able to bring some notoriety and some popularity to the sport back then, when in a lot of ways it was largely misunderstood. There was a lot of political backlash. There were, we weren't sanctioned in every state in the country. A lot of people didn't even look at us like we were a sport. So to kind of overcome those hurdles and really kind of become the combative sport for this generation has been really fun to be a part of.
What was maybe the most memorable fight, or even?
I was retired for about 13 months. Come out of retirement to fight Tim Sylvia, who's 6'8", just a giant heavyweight, and it felt like Mutt and Jeff out there in the cage, and that was an amazing crowd in Ohio that night. It was a 22,000 people, it was frenzied, and I'll never forget that last 10-second countdown in that fight. It was one I'll always remember. They started testing in 2000 across the board. All the athletic commissions got on board with testing the athletes in boxing and MMA,
that was vital, though, wasn't it?
I think it was something was going to happen. I mean, look at our Olympic athletes, and that's, I came from that world, so I was used to that kind of strict, stringent testing, and so it didn't bother me at all when they implemented it. I had a little bit different take on it when I was fighting. If I saw a guy that I thought was, looked like he was doing those sorts of things, I thought that was an advantage for me. Those guys are generally thinking the wrong place. They're not operating in a place of confidence where they feel good about their abilities, and they're looking for an edge. And I thought that was something I could exploit. I could take advantage of that mentality, and that was a sign of weakness in my mind. So it was kind of strained from the start. When they bought the company, I was their heavyweight champ. I was 39 years old. I don't think they thought that was very marketable to have this older guy as their heavyweight champ. I had really good management that knew what ancillary rights and some of these things they were slipping into these contracts were. So I wasn't very, they didn't like me much, and that never really changed, to be honest. They couldn't get rid of me. I think they would have liked to have a few times, but I kept coming back, and then, I guess Dana has issues with me. I don't have any issues with Dana. I fought for the company for 14 years. made them a lot of money, and was fortunate enough to make a great living myself. So I got no complaints. I got no issues. Expendables 3, and we were shooting on the Black Sea in Bulgaria, and they were making that to look like Somalia. We were supposedly on a mission in Somalia to take these weapons of mass destruction off of a sail. A guy was peddling them, and that guy happened to be Mel Gibson. But we're being chased by these bad guys on this flatbed truck, and we're supposed to kind of bail off this truck and get into a boat and kind of flee. And so the stunt guys show us the test run. You know, we're all over the back of the truck. Sly and Statham are in the truck. Statham's actually driving, and it's this kind of technical, European-looking flatbed truck. And he's like, "Man, let me do a test run, because I've never driven one of these things. I mean, you want me to come tearing down this alleyway? Let me test it once." So we're all getting geared up, ready to do the scene, and he takes the truck back down and comes flying back down, just like the stunt guys just did. He goes to stop, and the brakes go out in the truck. And we're all standing there watching him go off the pier into the water in this truck. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. Jason wasn't hurt. There was 2 cameramen that he literally ran off the pier. They lost an $80,000 camera. It was one of those moments, and we're just standing there with our mouths open going, what just happened? Sly, of course, has got his phone out. He's filming the whole thing, and we're like, man, it was just one of those things. But thankfully, nobody was injured. Jason was fine. He had to change and obviously put dry clothes on, but other than that, it was one of those things. We had the tragedy in Route 91, and I think this town really showed its colors after that event. Showed that we are a community. We're not just a bunch of transients that came from a lot of other places. And so, you know, I was proud to be a guy that lives in Las Vegas.
All right, thank you to Randy Couture for stopping by. Still to come.